Very good evening, everyone. Here we are back again with a little longer gap because of the festival eve. So, wishing you all a happy 𝗣𝗵𝗍. And let's start with our fourth episode. This time we are presenting something where earlier we had seen from the inquiry generation, or it could be order to cash, procure to pay. This time we are looking at something which is more into planning and production. It could be also with respect to for software industries, not just for the manufacturing industries, how we can plan things with respect to softwares or any other IT services or a service industry, I would put it out. So this is one of the most important and essential workflows that we believe, which is plan to produce, which every founder must master of any organization. So to start with, we'll see what are these invisible decisions that causes confusion or chaos in any organization. Most importantly, with respect to planning. So one of the first thing is promising faster than the team can, than the actual original or the in-house team can deliver will be always having a gap. That is basically what we plan as a to the end customer by the promising team or with the sales team, and what can they execute in-house. So that's where there is a gap between planning and also putting this up into the production, or filling the gap between the delivery and the planning. The next most important thing is, most importantly, the teams, because there will be, if at all there is no proper ERP in place, an ERP like Odoo, where people will be working in silos of their own. The procurement works in a silo, the sales work in another silo, the manufacturing works in another silo. People will be waiting, each and every team will be waiting for certain inputs, the dependencies, to understand where the, meanwhile in the background, the clock will be ticking, the deadlines will get closer. And most importantly, with all these things, with that is with independent working, there definitely will be some reworks which will silently take up all our cost, all our effort, and all our money, and definitely the timeline as well, which will slowly erodes the margins. And most importantly, with all these aspects, with a distributed system in place, all the individual department reports says yes, we did good, but when we put out everything put together, the whole organization's growth will not be very much scalable, or it will be slow running. So that's where, even though all the department information says yes, or the report says yes, instincts will somewhere say no, the otherwise way. So these are all couple of aspects that is especially are appearing in any organization. So it will be mostly, a day-to-day working will be like firefighting rather than a continuous steady process. So basically, we are losing the clarity in the rush that is on a day-to-day process. So even though, however good a leader is, it's not about just the leadership, it's also about the system limits. Do we have a right system? Do we have a right process in place? So to understand this, especially from planning and to foresee the things, it could be forecasting, or could be seeing what could go wrong, or what is my output in the production thing, or what could be my promising dates, what resources of mine are on leave, how well I can plan. Can I do all these things with my in my system, is what we are going to see today. So 6 moves that are visible in one workspace that we believe in Odoo is basically, first thing, as I said, the forecast, especially with respect to version 18, and all the versions of Odoo, especially from 17, we can put out, it could be with respect to a manufacturing entity, or it could be even for a service entity, we can put out everything at once. That is a master schedule where I have all the manufacturing orders, or I have all the projects in place in one place. It could be in the manufacturing module or in the projects module, where I can see what are my deadlines, who are my resources, how is their workload, what are the tasks that are given to them, or what are the work orders that my production team have to handle, what is the deadlines, or what are the deliverables for a day, or for a week, or for a month. So all these plannings can be put out, so the whole forecast is available. The next most important thing which I mentioned is the capacity check. That is, each resource, it could be a machine in terms of manufacturing, or it could be an operator, or it could be my employees who becomes my assets with respect to, who acts as a work centers for my this thing in my service industry, that is in my projects model. So who is occupied how much, which machine is occupied how much, all this will be available with the capacity check. And with respect to execution, we'll get to know what has to be done after what. That is, for example, if it is manufacturing module where we get to see what work order has to be done after what, which manufacturing order has to be taken up after what, which work center will be allocated next, how well we need to service it beforehand, how well we need to replace the molds or anything like that, any hardware change or anything like that. Or even with respect to software service industries, where we get to know which particular resource is on leave, or who is given more work, who is having more workload, what is their throughput, how well they are aligned, what are the upcoming tasks, how well they need to prepare. All these things we'll get to know with the execution. And with respect to manufacturing, we also have another, especially for manufacturing industries, when manufacturing is there, we definitely will be having maintenance or quality, in fact, go hand in hand. So in that scenario, where qualities will be built in with each and every manufacturing order or with each and every work order, we can have it in such a way that with every manufacturing order, we can trigger the quality process before we take up the manufacturing or after we complete the manufacturing, where we continuously check what is going on with our manufacturing process. We can review, we can raise the alerts, we can have automated controls over there. And most importantly, with all this, we can measure the KPIs. It could be with respect to KPIs of the work centers or with respect to the whole product itself. It could be a software product, that is a service product, or it could be a manufacturing product. And with all this, the system learns. That is, most importantly, it could be with respect to traceability, or it could be with respect to, for example, in a manufacturing setup, if I've planned for with my work center's capacity and everything, and it was supposed to, we are supposed to get 100 products outcome in a day, but I only got 98, but my this thing, that is basically byproducts are more, my OE efficiency is less. All these things will clearly give me what is happening on the shop floor, rather than just writing it down and later, probably 1 month down the line, we are analyzing. On a day-to-day basis, we start analyzing things. The production team gets the information, the management team gets the information, the design team gets information. Even with respect to service industries, the team, basically the team manager or the management gets to know which resources are working out on which task, was there, how many escalations were there. So all these traceability will be available within the system itself. So that's what we say. If you can see it, as I was mentioning just a moment ago, like if you can see all these things on a day-to-day basis, on momentary wise, dynamically, if you can visualize these aspects in a system, that's when you can fix the problems, you can measure it. If you can measure it, you can definitely grow over it. So as we always say, that great founders always win at planning, not just at speed. So let's now see each one of these like in depth. That is how the forecast work, how the quality works. So let's start with the smarter planning itself. It's like usually on a week, to start a week, or with respect to a start of a month, or with respect to start of a quarter, people will be like more important. Mostly this thing into concentrated into how do we plan the overall process. With a proper ERP tool like Odoo in place, we can plan very well ahead, and we can plan with very clear confidence. That is, what are my resources, what is my demand, or what is my actual sales promises, or what are my projects in place, what is my deliverables that has to be put out. That can be broken again, once again, with respect to either the machines or with respect to my resources who are available. So this can then be taken up. Are they having any time dependency, or are they having any process dependencies? All these things can be looked into with a very clear thing of either based on calendar view or with respect to Gantt charts. And most importantly, if we have any such, for example, if there is a machine which needs maintenance in between, but my demand says more, I have more demand to put out. Instead of not knowing this, if at all we have, imagine a manufacturing entity where my system itself says that you cannot plan continuous 48 hours this week because I have some 8 hours of work to be done on as part of maintenance. Right now, if at all there is no system like Odoo in place where people have to take up decisions, people have to first go there and check whether this particular machine needs maintenance. Nobody would have given an alert, or it purely depends on a person's memory if this particular machine needs a service or something. Or even in my service industry, for resources on leave, if system itself can prompt that you cannot plan this particular deliverable for this week because one of your resources is on leave, how well it is, we can allocate alternate resource, or we can plan something else. So this is where we can spot the bottlenecks before they block my entire team. And most importantly, we can simulate, we can then throttle the workloads before committing. That is how well we can plan, how well, for example, if this is the amount of products that we need to produce with these machines in place, with this particular bill of material, with this particular lead time, when can I promise my client? or how well I can schedule my manufacturings, or how well I can schedule my deliveries, so that how well we can promise the client and we can achieve the deadlines. Same way with respect to service industry, how well we can put out with my resources, with their specific skill set, how well can I execute the projects? Are there any bottlenecks? Are there any new projects coming up? So all these things we can forecast, we can simulate, and we can put out in real time before even committing to the client. So we again go on to say, like, plans mean nothing if your team cannot live them. That is basically, until unless if your team can make that plan as a reality, else the plan will simply be something built on sky. I mean, there is no point in we putting up with just in verbal terms. So most importantly, our plans, whatever the production plan or whatever the deliverable plan, have to be put out on ground, and those have to be achieved at least 90 to 95% of that. That is when we can say that it was an efficient plan. Going further, where we say continuing further, where Odoo has a very good this thing of dashboards, where it can pull all the things together. That is where basically, if at all it's a manufacturing, we say that, as I said, what all things needs to be done. For example, these are the products which needs to be manufactured within this week or within this month, or because of this, these are the work centers that have to be allocated. These are the purchases that needs to be done with respect to raw materials. These are the maintenances that needs to be done with respect to work centers. All these things can be accumulated onto various dashboards. I mean, into one particular dashboard with various different metrics. So this will Odoo allows us to have different metrics, and also it will allow us to have flexible workflows. And most importantly, executing all these things. Now, I know that, yes, with all these dashboards and stuff, these are my deliverables. Probably because of maintenance, I'll have to allocate a different work center. Probably because of a leave of one particular resource, I have to allocate another, so that I can execute seamlessly rather than at that moment thinking of what needs to be done. We can plan very well ahead, so that the execution feels very effortless for us. But how do we get to there? Because of all these visualization of data through the system, not just understanding with some Excel data or something like that. So Odoo is not just a software, it's a map for how your operations flow. That is, you very well see in advance what needs to be done or how things needs to be put out. Continuing further, as we said, we clearly put out the quality of that is basically because of the quality model which is available in Odoo. During our planning and during our execution, we can capture all the real-time issues. That is with respect to production. That is basically when I have a production and we get some output, we want to check what type of, whether it is meeting all the quality checkpoints. We can allocate this. We need not. That is basically, somebody need not say that, okay, this product of this manufacturing order has to go to quality. All this can be configurable at once, so that Odoo triggers on its own. We can have even in such a good way that once the manufacturing is done, it doesn't straight away go into stock, but it goes to another location called quarantine. I'm just saying it as an example. So in there, a quality check will be triggered based on different metrics. It could be a spreadsheet, or it could be a simple visualization test, or it could be any other different types of tests, where we can clearly record at the time of once the manufacturing is done that, yes, these are the products, these were passed, these were failed, and then we can later take up decisions based on that. And if at all quality checks were failed, what are the alerts that needs to be triggered? All this can be automated, so that even the quality works in sync with the manufacturing. And once only the quality is completely certified, the quality team certifies the products, they'll further move back to the stock or further to the output or with respect to packing or any other station. So this is how well integrated quality process can be. It need not be a siloed process apart from manufacturing. So as I said, especially if you cannot measure the quality, then you cannot hold on to it. That is basically, we cannot say that if at all I have manufacturing in place, but quality doesn't, if I have to do everything manually, then it's a bottleneck for our system where I cannot release the products to the output or for sales or for any other services. So how do we put out is basically we want to quantify the flow to control it. So that's when the quality process is in, we will be bought in. And then most importantly, with all this, we measure we measure the performance of the either the work centers, or in case of manufacturing, or with respect to the utilization of the machines, or with respect to the operators throughput itself, or we even measure the performance of my employees. That is with respect to who does the services, who put out the timesheets, what was the planned time for this particular project or with particular task or a subtask, who was assigned to it, How much time did they take to complete it? What were the bottlenecks that they faced? What were the challenges that they faced? How much time did they take to put it out? All these things can be measured within the system itself. Same way with respect to in the manufacturing as well. As I said, what was my capacity? How did I plan? How much did I achieve? How much time did I take to complete this one particular manufacturing process or work order? Everything can be traced, and everything will be available within the system so that we measure the performance. And most importantly, as I said, in especially with respect to manufacturing, we can even say how much was my byproducts, which can be like, for example, for my waste, which can be sold or anything like that, which will clearly say that how much am I spending on these aspects. That is, what was my plan, how much was my yield. For example, for any particular manufacturing thing, they'll be planning for at least 98% of the yield to achieve. With 100% of consumption, at least 98% of it, or even 99% of it, should be converted into actual output. But this variation within the yield can definitely, through the byproducts and stuff within Odoo in the manufacturing process, can tell us how much yield are we achieving. All these things can be put out within Odoo itself with manufacturing and quality in process. So basically, it's not just about, investors and partners trust discipline, and not just about the dashboard beauty. It's not just about reports, but also the nitty-gritties of the system. And most importantly, the predictability. So that is basically how well, I mentioned earlier also, for example, all these aspects, that is, it could be maintenance, or it could be quality if there is a breakdown, or if there is a machine change needs to be done, or if there is some preventive maintenance or corrective maintenance that needs to be done next week, how well my system is ready. Can I predict all these things? And for example, if the festival is coming up, my employees might take leave. How can I organize my resources so that my projects run hassle-free? So all these things can be put out within the system by observing the trends, by looking into the metrics. For example, as I said, there will be rescheduling of the things where we can where we can have real improvements. And most importantly, we can see the workload of each and every, it could be a work center or it could be a resource. All these things can be seen within the system on a particular day or on a particular week, how well occupied they are. It could be a work center or it could be a resource. So we call it as predictability is not built, is built but not born. So we build step by step with respect to understanding the system. It doesn't just rise on day one. So all these things are built throughout a period of time. Like, we put out the data into the system, we then observe the performance of the whole activity. That is, it could be in manufacturing, or it could be with quality, or it could be with maintenance, or it could be with projects. So we see how well the parameters of the process are behaving. It could be work centers, or it could be my resources, all these things. And that's when in future we get ready for it. So most importantly, especially with respect to manufacturing process, with all these things, compliance means trust. That is, it's not just that we put out saying that we manufactured so and so, this is our product and this is a well qualified product, but then we capture all these aspects within the system itself. For example, there is a customer complaint and we receive it back. We receive the product back. With Odoo, we can trace it into such a way that when was it manufactured, which BOM was used to manufacture, which work center was used to manufacture, who was the operating resource, from which vendor did we buy the raw materials, with which subcontractor did we produce some semi-finished goods. Up until then, we can clearly trace the whole product history with use of lot numbers and the serial numbers. And as I said, with each and every this thing also, that is the lot serial number and everything, we can track a lot of other details. Like, for example, expiry management, we can clearly say this particular lot was manufactured so and so, or this particular serial number was manufactured so and so, and this is going to be expired in some time. This is going to be we have to move the stock within so and so time, and this is going to be expired in the next 1 month. So all these things can be put out, especially with respect to manufacturing products in place. All these things are inbuilt within the system. So sustainability is not just an overhead, it is a competitive advantage. That is, with all these things, imagine, as I mentioned earlier, you can trace up until which vendor gave the product to you, when was the product received, till then, from the bill of material, when was it manufactured, which work center, which employee who worked on it, till which vendor did we purchase from. So till that level, we can achieve the traceability. That comes with Odoo by default. And you might be wondering, so with all these complicated process, which might seem complicated, can we actually, if at all I have a small organization, can we launch it in 30 days? Is this even possible? We say yes, because we have, I mean, with respect to project or with respect to any particular industry, now Odoo has provided a very good industrial verticals, where if you need a manufacturing industry, or if you need a hotel industry, or if you have a hair salon, if you have a catering shop, or if you have a catering van, based on these different industries, even law firms have been introduced in version 19 now. So with all these things, we can clearly start at the earliest with simple blocks of processes, and we can take up one by one after that. That is basically, we call it as zero touch onboarding, where clearly we can assign things. We can start from the minimal MVP, minimum viable product, and then we can build on depending on the scalability of your process. So imagine you guys, I mean, imagine we as a small organization taking up an ERP tool, making the system seamless, and then most importantly, streamlining the whole process and making sure the complete process is digitized, and seeing all the results before the next board meeting, or not even the next year. It's just next another meeting. That is how simple Odoo is. Again, keeping a little more this thing, where we can say that again, the planning with respect to dates and the margin, what you can see as basically as a particular founder or a particular organizer, you can see how well we can plan the dates, how well we can see, I mean, now my planning is being done, how much margin can I achieve with this. It could be with respect to projects, which resource I'm working on, because of this resource, how much is my cost to the company, so what is my project budget. All these things we can have a comparison within Odoo itself. And then basically, as I said, I mean, I repeated once again, it's about when every step is traceable from forecast to feedback, chaos becomes a choice. It's like, most importantly, everything is disciplined. We have everything in place rather than as an option. Like, we have one tool over here, which is Odoo, where we have, if at all it's a manufacturing industry, we have all the things in place, right from raw material consumption to the production to the planning to the this thing, like the promising dates, the lead time, as I say, and basically, if it is with respect to service industry, how well we can execute, how many parallel resources I can employ, and all these things. And most importantly, we have the predictability in place, we have the traceability in place, and most importantly, we have the built-in learning loops, so that the process becomes better and better with every day passing. So it's, I mean, we would have less chances of somehow we saying that if at all I had known this earlier, I would have done it better. Rather than that, now that with a good equipped system like Odoo, we have all the things in place where we can start and where we can deploy, and we can put things in place. We can start seeing the results of the planning and forecasting in place from day one itself. So as I said, why founders should care now? Because, as I said, fast teams aren't lucky, they're prepared. That is basically, they have all the things in place. That is, as I said, forecasting, planning, traceability, and predicting, and finally the results. And most importantly, with each and every process, it is learning in Odoo, especially with version 90, especially Odoo version 19, even with AI is completely integrated. The system learns on its own. System automatically prompts the user that a particular material is not available, or a particular machine is going to be broken. I mean, it's going for a maintenance. It could be a corrective or preventive maintenance, or a particular employee might their performance is low. They might be looking for other options or something like that. So all these things are possible within Odoo now. And most importantly, instead, as I mentioned in the first slide itself, instead of making it like a firefighting session, that I got a new breakdown, I'll replace a machine, my employee is suddenly on leave, I'll have to plan another resources. Rather than that, the complete process is predicted very well ahead, is planned very well ahead. We predicted the changes, we planned very well ahead, so that it becomes a constant reaction, rather than, I mean, it becomes a continuous process learning, rather than fighting immediately for I mean, it's basically not anymore a firefighting session. So that is what a founder has to be looking into, so that their everyday process becomes seamless. So this is where we conclude this particular session, where we say that again, I repeat it, where we predict, we plan, we execute, and we look into all the traceability and reports. So all these things in place with Odoo's latest versions. So if you have any questions, you can let us know how we can interact, and we can answer your questions. Thank you.